Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I'm super excited about the conversation we're about to have today because it's related to artificial intelligence. And although we don't want robots running our lives, we also can't ignore the fact that there is a super smart technology out there that makes you super powered in the running of your business. And I don't think we talk enough about AI on this podcast. I don't think we talk enough about AI in this industry. And I think that bringing more voices to the forefront, helping you to understand where you can implement AI in your business above and beyond the Claude and Chat GPT interfaces that you have, but how can you get really, really smart about what you're doing and how you're doing it, save on staff, or become more efficient? A lot of things that can happen with artificial intelligence, and I'm excited to jump into a conversation. Our guest today is Alex Mehr. Alex is a serial tech entrepreneur with a PhD in engineering. He sold his first company, the online dating app called Zoosk, for $258 million in 2019. He's passionate about new technology and how it can help people unleash their potential. Um, He's just founded a company called Famous.ai, which I'm sure we're going to dive into today. It allows entrepreneurs to turn their ideas into market-ready websites and apps rapidly without an engineering team or technical know-how. I myself am intrigued. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, quick backstory. Just give us your background. I mean, how did you get into everything that you do? And with a $258 million sale, I'm sure there's a lot of story there. We probably don't have enough time to cover that, but just your origin story, I guess, just so our audience gets to know you a little bit.
Yeah, I'm a serial tech entrepreneur, but I didn't start that way. I started as a scientist, and I didn't even knew that much about entrepreneurship. I graduated with my master's PhD, started working at NASA as a scientist, and then I worked in San Francisco Bay Area, and I decided to try this thing called entrepreneurship. And once I crossed that Rubicon, I never, could go back. And fast forward many years, I found my strength is identifying new technologies and how I can package them and make them helpful to people. That's sort of, at this age, I sort of know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And I think that's what I'm good at and what I'm passionate about. And that's what I do at Famous Labs. We take this very powerful, wonderful or not, depends on how you use it, technology called AI, and we constantly think about the new unlocks. What does it unlock that wasn't possible yesterday, and how we can make it be more helpful to more people in different ways. And that's sort of our mission.
That's awesome, and really a valuable service. It's interesting when you say that. How do you make technology more helpful to the user? Brings me back to my childhood. My father was a serial solopreneur, so never figured out how to hire staff. But he always had the next best great idea. I mean, our house was a constant evolution of businesses. We had a gold refinery in our basement. We had a flower shop. So at one point he was doing closeouts, and he came home with some, I don't know, 5,000 board games called Plutocrat. And he came upstairs with a box of it and he says, "Let's sit down. We're going to figure out how to play this thing." And opened it up and had no instructions. And he's like, "Okay, no wonder this thing didn't sell." So we
Right.
made up our own instructions, repackaged all those boxes, and once it became usable to the end user, all of a sudden it had a market, right? So, that's really with technology. Like, there's so much tech out there, but until somebody understands how to use it, it's really not helpful at all. So,
Exactly.
love what you're doing with it. What's the opportunity with AI? Like what, like when business, I mean, we're talking to law firm owners, right? So
Mhm.
law firm owners, I mean, there's everything from the marketing side of the business, the sales, the acquisition side, the delivery of product. People are worried, what's it going to do to their culture, replacing staff. What's the big picture vision or the way that a founder should be looking at this for their business and saying, this is how I want to approach this?
Yeah. So I have good news and bad news. The bad news is it's very difficult to actually figure out exactly how this is going to pan out. So if you feel confused and all that a little bit, and we can, you know, dive into it, it's sort of it's a problem. But the good news is everybody has that problem. So essentially, the way I think about it is, as a business owner, you need to be playing with this new technology, trying it in different ways, in different aspects of your business, and then double down on things where it does a good job and there are areas where it doesn't do a good job. And that might change, by the way, 6 months from now. But you cannot wait until everything just becomes mature and well understood and then try to play catch up, because probably it's you're going to fall behind your competitor in that sense. Does that make sense? And you mentioned marketing, lead generation. The first product that we got traction on as an AI app was Deal.ai, which was a marketing platform. And that's essentially one of the first areas where I saw AI actually making a difference. And now it's like very well understood. But, from creative ideation, creative work, which takes a lot of times, and a lot of times marketing agencies are not good at it, all the way to lead capture and lead nurturing, meaning how you communicate with your customers, newsletters, all different ways that people communicate with their customers. All of that can be done with AI now. And that has been a really rapid change in the past 2-3 years. So that's like just the front end. And on fulfillment side, particularly for law firms, I haven't used any of the legal tech products, AI products myself, but I know that a lot of people use Harvey, for example, which helps with essentially discovery, I think, for law firms. And there are many other solutions like that are popping up. So, I mean, all the way to customer communication, note taking. I mean, I can go through the entire stack, and we can talk about different aspects of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to dive into, Famous.ai. It seems like
Mhm.
that's like the front runner of your conversations these days.
Yes.
And for a law firm owner, I mean, like when you say turn your ideas into market ready websites and apps, right? Like
Mhm.
I don't typically think of a law firm as a business that needs to be continuously creating apps. Like what's the opportunity there? Can you go a little bit deeper into what does this make possible for our audience, um and how do we look at that? Is it more on the marketing side, or is there more
Not
to it?
necessarily. So apps, when I say apps, people think necessarily iPhone, Android apps. That's not, it could be a web app. So you essentially, let's say you want to get more clients. So one way to do that is to take your expertise and build a website that's for free, and people can log in and do something. For example, they can put in their information and it analyzes it for them, right? So this used to be a huge tech build. Let's say you had a situation and you wanted to explain it, enter your parameters, and it kind of analyze your situation. I don't know specifically, but think like all the applications that it can have in your industry. Um, so that could be a great lead generation mechanism, because people come in, they don't have to retain a lawyer, but they can play with the website and get some information that way. No more. You can essentially type it in English, connect our AI, and have it up and running very rapidly. So that's sort of where it's going. You no longer have to have, if you want to be ahead of the curve in terms of user acquisition and service, you no longer have to have, let's say, a dev shop in Eastern Europe to build these things for you. You can essentially build it yourself by explaining what you want to build. And that's, to me, is a big breakthrough. Now, in different industries, obviously, the diffusion rate of this technology is different. Obviously, law firms and accounting firms are slower to move relative to other industries. Maybe, I don't know, you tell me. But I think still you will see the diffusion of the AI technology in all industries, regardless. It's just different rates. Does it make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I can think of examples on the front end side where, there might be something of value. Like let's say you're an estate planning firm and you are educating somebody on the difference between a will and a trust. And they can just input their information as to their family structure, their assets, their what their financial situation is, and then it can spit out whether, they need a will or they need a trust. And then the next step would be, and maybe it even gives information about what to expect to pay and what the value of doing that is. And now, you kind of short circuit that process and
Exactly.
get them booked onto a sales conversation from there. Um, there is there, I mean, there are other apps out there for building tech tools, right? What what makes yours different? There's one I'm thinking of that one of my clients is using regularly, and I can't remember the name of it right now. I think it starts with an R, but it'll come to me.
Mhm.
Um, how does Famous AI differentiate from those? Um, you're not the only one, right?
Yeah, we're not the only ones, and there are multiple competitors. The way we differentiate is I, even though I'm an engineer by background, I have built multiple apps and websites over the years, many, in fact. And through that process, I learned what actually works and what doesn't. People think of these platforms as a platform to write software. And I'm like, nobody really wants to build a software. They want an end product that actually gets users and grows. So we trained our platform a lot on how to build something that looks good, is easy to use, is intuitive, it has marketing language on it. It's like essentially we don't think of it as, oh, it just spits out a bunch of code and gives you a thing that is technically functioning, but in reality it never gets any market share. So we focus a lot on that, and because of that, our platform is our runs are a lot longer, and it takes a little bit more time to actually build something on ours because we just put a lot of information in there and we make it as close to the final product as possible. And when I say final product, again, it's just people think, oh, this is a software builder. I'm like, no, this is a product builder, meaning it spits out things that are a lot closer to something that might work in the real world. So that's, I think, our differentiation. It's just a more complete solution end to end.
Okay. Um, I'm going to put myself in my audience's shoes here and try to ask some questions that I think might be running through their minds. Even though it kind of replaces an Eastern European dev team, right? Um, First, how complex an application is realistic to create in here? I have clients that have created their own practice management system
Mhm,
because nothing out of the box did what they needed to do exactly.
mhm,
I have clients that have created their own CRM or built it on top of FileMaker or Salesforce, and they have that dev team that's building on top of those platforms. Um, can we build something that robust? Can we create a relational database kind of application? And then I'm going to throw a few questions at you because they probably all are
yeah, it's
tied
fine.
together with the answer. But then where does it reside when it's done? Is it mine? Is it yours? Is it, where's the data? How secure
Oh,
is
the
it?
data. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
yeah, so it's all of like just understanding the size of the product, the location or the life cycle of it, and then finally the last question is, my clients who have dev teams, like they're, I mean, those people are full-time employees. Like they've got three or four people that are always iterating the application.
Mhm.
Is that something that I, as the founder, should expect to now be doing, or somebody on my team to feeding into your application? Hey, we found this problem. Can you fix this kind of thing?
Yeah. So high level idea is this is going to be a transition phase. Just to put in perspective, our engineers essentially at this point, most of the time, they don't write any of the code themselves. Okay. So the era of devs writing actual code is coming to an end, believe it or not. So, um, what I think will happen over time is uh, people who previously used to just command other developers to actually build tools are going to start either doing it themselves or they're going to have more say in what engineers do, in the sense that the devs do some of the work on the platform and then they go and they're able to modify it with pure English. Okay. So imagine your devs, your engineers did some work and you looked at it and the engineer goes home and you can log in and you're like, ah, that's good, but that should change. Instead of telling that to your engineer, you can just type in the, in the on the website that, hey, can you change this to that? The same thing that you would communicate to the engineer. So it would become a collaboration between the project owner, manager, and the engineer. So I think that's a transition phase we're going through as we speak. Um, in terms of, you ask a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to remember as many of them as possible. In terms of, okay, so does this replace the developer's tool? That is not what we are aiming for. So there are a lot of dev tools out there that are built for technical engineers. What we are building here is something that allows non-engineers to actually build products. And that's sort of our goal. That's our customer base. Does that make sense? And to do that, we have a lot of built-in components. For example, you mentioned database. So we have a relational database built in that resides, that essentially creates an instance and attaches it to your project automatically the moment it detects it needs it. You don't even need to know what a database is. The system knows. You can click on it and see it, but it automatically does it. And that's sort of what I say. We try to kind of remove all the barriers for a non-technical person to build it. And we are doing, I think, our best at this point to be able to do that. And that's sort of where it's going. And the data obviously belongs to you. It is sitting in your own, essentially, instance of a database built in. You can also integrate with third party, not use our internal database. If you feel more comfortable that way, that's also, doable. And essentially the goal here is to be able to build anything using Famous.ai without knowing how things work. Now, are we there 100%? No. So definitely we can do simpler applications and more complex applications. As our platform develops and as AI becomes better and better, we are able to do more and more complex stuff with it. So does it make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I'm thinking about my father, who's now a access database developer, right? So it's a unique spot because I mean it's a dying breed, obviously.
Access
Um,
database, yeah.
but there's still like massive corporations that have their little department that built their own little access database, and then they
Yes.
bring him in as a project, as a project owner to go and resolve or rectify issues that they have with their data structure and stuff like that. So I'm just thinking of like these, there's so many things in the day to day that we're like, wow, I wish there was an application for this. And that's probably the way to think about this is just like building something, like for example, I have a remote workforce. I work out of my house. Our staff is dispersed throughout the world. So we have a Slack communication protocol. We have a channel where everybody checks in. We have when they go on lunch, they set their status to be on lunch, what time they're going to be back. I'm just thinking like it would be really cool if we had like a little application that took that information from the feed and you saw the entire team and what their status was and where they are, at one point at any given time. I imagine that's something that this can build.
Yes.
Um, so it's kind of like the simple things that we're like when we start thinking about how we go through our day to day in our business and say, oh, is there something that can automate this? Is there something that could do this better, faster? Maybe we just turn to an app like this and say, hey, build me something, and see what comes out. I think the biggest challenge I have in thinking about this is not getting started. It's not going and telling it what I want, but it's fixing the problems, right? Like we all know that software has this massive cycle of like finding bugs and fixing them, and so I imagine that if I create an application, I'm going to have this constant trail of things that I find wrong with it, that we're constantly needing to give it more input on fixing those things.
Yes.
Um, and now that, so now we're transitioning from spending our time in one thing to spending our time in managing the app itself.
Yes. And but at the same time, think about it this way. AI is actually particularly good at writing what they call test harness and finding bugs. It's in fact that's the first thing it got right before actually writing coding. So it in general, I think you will find it easier to resolve bugs with AI than with humans, believe it or not. So a lot
Right.
of those, it's not always the case, but it is, I find it a lot better at solving those issues. So a lot of things that might annoy you on your product and you have to tell an engineer to fix. um, and engineers, I call them the 7 stages of working with engineer. The first stage is denial, then they go through, they blame you, negotiation, and like ultimately the acceptance, and they fix it. So it AI doesn't have that. It has no emotions, and it's really good at actually solving little things and improving bugs. It's I find it really good.
Yeah. Um, I remember the name of the app that my client's using. It's Replit. Is
Yeah.
that similar to
Yes.
what Famous.ai is doing?
Yes, is but designed for more technical users. So we are designed for less technical users.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, there's definitely things that, like for example, I've been getting a lot of estate planning clients,
Mhm.
and estate planning clients are an educate the marketplace first business, right? Like
Mhm.
people don't walk around saying, "Oh my gosh, I need an estate plan." So they need to host workshops and host these events in order to educate the end user that they need to get something.
Mhm.
But the practice management systems and the CRM systems out there are designed to take a lead to a conversion to a sale,
Mhm.
but they convert twice. They
Mhm.
convert from the workshop to a consult, and then from the consult to a sale.
Mhm.
So that's a perfect example of an entire subset of the legal industry that none of the tools that are out there are designed for, and doesn't just
Right.
doesn't work well with. So they can't. There isn't a good way to track the metrics of those things, unless you host those on different platforms and things like that. So
Mhm.
I think that would be a good example, where this tool would be really useful. Um, I imagine the biggest barrier to entry is just getting people to believe that they could do it, right? Like it's kind of one of
Yeah.
those things where you got to try it to believe it, right?
You gotta try it. And the fact of the matter is, like, over time, that it's people will start believing and using it. And it's just a matter of, like, do you want to be an early mover, even though the technology is like has its own, issues, a little bit of it's not completely smooth, or you want to wait until it's more mature and be a late mover. And it's just people's choice. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, is there a cost involved? Is it a free application? Like, how does that work? How easy is it for somebody to get started?
Yeah, it's like it's credit based, depends on how much tokens the platform use, and then there's a hosting fee if you want to keep the project live. um, in general, it depends on the complex, essentially short answer, depends on the complexity and what you're trying to do. But in general, I want to say, compared to alternative, which is having actually human devs or a workshop uh, uh, you know, do it. So it's significantly cheaper. So it's like, I mean, it's not even an order of magnitude. It's like two orders
Right.
of magnitude cheaper. So in general, I want to say the question that people have to ask themselves is, do I want this app built or not? And if the answer is yes, and if they think AI can do it, cost compared to human is just so much lower, it almost is not a factor. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, the thing is like for a lot of these things is, most people would not even go and try to pay for development of
Exactly.
it, right? Like they would
Exactly.
just deal with it.
Yes.
So it's not really comparing like what would this cost me otherwise because I probably wouldn't make that investment otherwise, right? But
Yes.
now it's so easy and so attainable that maybe it's worth just going and solving this problem. And I mean, honestly, like at the end of this conversation, the one takeaway that I have is just you just have to try it, see what the power is, and then look for opportunities to put it to work.
Exactly.
And not I guess not be concerned about the cost or think of it differently. Like if I build this app, what is that going to save me in human labor? What is that going to say?
Exactly.
What is that going to elevate in my customer experience? And if we can do that, if we can figure that piece out, that's where the real value I think becomes.
Yes. Yes. And in general, I want to say that's exactly the way to think about it. You're like, okay, so a dev build of this project is, I mean, depends on the complexity, but projects could be seven figures, could be six figures. So you're talking about like a huge commitment to get a dev shop, up and running on a project and building an actual project. Even though they use AI, still there's human in the loop. Does that make sense? So it makes it expensive. So, so the question is, do you think it is worth a try or not? And the answer is sometimes you try it and it doesn't generate the thing you wanted. It's the truth of AI these days.
Right.
And obviously the capabilities, we're working on increasing the capabilities and doing that all the time and generating, we actually is sometimes mind blowing the things that people are building on our platform. Um, but it's like, do you want to take a shot at your idea or not? It's
Right.
like as simple as that sometimes. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I have more questions about my own personal situation, but I'm not going to
Happy,
bore the
happy
people on
to
the
talk
podcast.
offline.
Yeah,
I
no,
can message
I
you
mean
after.
like something as simple as like I when I travel for work, right? Like
Mhm.
there's criteria that I use on deciding how I want to fly. I'm
Right.
willing to spend up until a certain amount to fly first class, but if it's the kind of bed that reclines, then I'm willing to pay more, right? So I need to check what aircraft that flight is and see if it's one of those. So I'm wondering like is that the kind of thing that I could write an app to go
Potentially, yeah.
and look for look for those flights and figure out what aircraft it is and then determine which flight to purchase which ticket to purchase. um those are the kinds of crazy things that like I might spend 3 hours on United's website and I would love it if I mean obviously the answer is to have an executive assistant do it for me, right?
Exactly. Or
But
have a build an app that does it. It's also possible.
right.
So yeah.
So yeah, that's where my mind's going as far as like what how I would put this to use. All right, we're just about out of time. We're gonna wrap it up. So I close out each interview with two things: one parting piece of advice or wisdom for the audience that you'd like to leave, and two, how can they find out more about you?
Yeah. So to find out more about us, famouslabs.com, and the product is famous.ai. And one piece of advice that I want to tell people is look, when you were a child, you had a sense of curiosity. You were playing with things and enjoying that process. As we got older, somehow the society took that pleasure of playing away from us. In my life experience, the more I played with new ideas and explored new things, it was rewarding. So one piece of advice is keep that inner playful inner child alive at however you can for as long as you can.
Yeah, I mean, we're on a podcast for attorneys, so there's a good chance that golf is one of the big play pleasures. But yeah, no, I hear you, and I love that, and I think the biggest challenge is we all are so busy, and we're constantly putting our business first, and I guess it's I guess it's make time for this even within your business, right? Like
That's right.
find ways to play around even within your business and have fun with it. Is what I'm hearing the message to be. Folks, you heard it here. Famouslabs.com, famous.ai, check it out. I'm going to be diving in and playing around with it myself. We're getting super AI focused on the back end with our staff. I have some ideas about doing what they used to do when Zapier was brand new. there were these Zapier hackathons where like they would put everybody would come in a room and they would teach you how to connect your different applications together and you would do it live. I'm playing with this idea of doing that kind of thing with AI. You know, like people are just not going to go and try something, but if we get into a room for a couple of days, we could take a bunch of ideas, try a piece of the software, get your hands dirty, and really get you seeing the power of it, so that you can actually execute and implement it in your business. So that's some ideas we're playing with here behind the scenes, and I think that we'll probably execute on that sometime in the near future. So, folks. We're here every single Thursday with a brand new interview. Alex, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank you.